All
Thanks,
right.
Holly.
Yeah, of course. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar, Business Transition Planning with Dunlap Bennett and Ludwig. We have Dubs, one of our partners in Seattle, based in Washington, expert in this area. So we're just going to be asking him some questions about business transition planning. Dubs, if you would like to introduce yourself, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Dubs Herschlip, and I want to give you tools for business transition planning and insights into what to expect and how to think about it for your future.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and just get right into the questions then. So the first one that I have for you, Dubs, is what is the purpose and the importance of business transition planning?
Well, there are many, many reasons, and it's really going to depend on the person as to why it's important for them. But in general, just, what I've seen is that it can maximize the value of your business by demonstrating stability over time. You're going to increase value to all shareholders, both the stockholders and the employees. Everyone's going to benefit from having a stable transition plan come what may. That's really what this is about. A lot of this, we can expect long term that we all need to retire, but there are also surprises. So stability and continuity planning, I prefer to call business transition planning, is really going to maximize the value of business. It can defer or reduce or avoid federal income tax, controls the timing of your exit, reduces your exposure to litigation risk post-transfer. There's lots to talk about in all of these things, but cultivate, and this is really the most important one in my experience, is cultivating opportunities for key management. I think we can go on and on about that, but really that's going to be in the person's life. Who do they know? What resources do they have to identify their replacement? And I'll come in to this same topic from different angles, but that's one of the most important things, is to just think about yourself as replaceable. Um, and then creating incentive for employees, develop an effective retirement plan, keep the business within the family, avoid family conflict. That's number two. That's the other super big reason, is there's probably no better recipe for family conflict than leaving them an indivisible asset or resource like a business.
Mhm.
And then fulfilling your philanthropic goals. There's a lot to be said about how we want to leave this earth. And if you want to align your assets with your goals, then this business transition planning is really the way to do it.
Awesome. So it sounds like it's incredibly important. Every business owner should probably have this. Um, so how do I know when the time is right for me to do this?
Oh, great question. Thanks. Yeah, every business owner, I'm not sure that every business owner needs to do this. If you're under 5 years of sustainable revenue, without expected substantial revenue, this might not be for you. But anyone nearing retirement or estate planning or retirement planning, or even if you're training your replacement, maybe you're further along in the process, and you're contemplating the sale of your business, either to your key employee or to a third party, it takes about 5 years to think about all of these questions, answer them, effectuate them. And so, if you're in business for 5 years and then you're doing any of those things, this is definitely for you. But I know a lot of really effective people who still don't think, no, it's not for me. I am the magic worker, the miracle worker here, and I'm irreplaceable. So if you hear yourself saying these things, even though you may not think transition planning is for you, these phrases coming out of your mouth means you need to think about transition planning. My company is doing well again, but I don't want to go through another recession. I really do not want to be working as hard as I am right now. I feel a sense of urgency to take care of my key people so they don't leave. My assets are too concentrated in my company. I'd like to be ready to sell if the opportunity presents itself. That's huge. I'm constantly telling my clients, as soon as you have a business, think about sale. You're going to have your business until you don't, and would you like to get money for it at the end, right? And then
Mhm.
no one else can run this business except me, and I'm uncomfortable with that fact. That's a valid concern. And my friends are getting sick and I want to relax and enjoy life before I die too, or I go too. Um, or I made my contribution to this business and my kids don't want it after me. I see that a lot too. You know, not every shoe cobbler's son wants to become a shoe cobbler, right?
Mhm. Yeah, those are great. Awesome tips. So yeah, if you're thinking about any of those things, definitely consider getting into your business transition planning. Another question I have is there anything that I should do to be getting my business ready for this?
Yeah, this is really probably the pro tip part of the webinar here. Lots of stuff you can do, but number one, get your business documentation in order. Make sure that you have, all of your assets identified with title. You probably even want to think about your liabilities just in terms of, continuity planning. You're going to want to keep paying the bills of the business. You're going to want to maintain contracts over time. So thinking about assets in its broadest sense, getting all that documentation in order, including, you know, key assets, key personnel. Who are the people that are relied upon, both inside and out, whether they're W-2s or 1099s? You want to put them on the list. Um, Organize your financial statements. You're really going to save yourself a lot of time by taking P&Ls and all the financials and presenting them to your expert instead of having, or your attorney, your CPA, whoever it is, instead of having them organize your catalog of assets and your key personnel and all this stuff. You're going to do your best, but then you're going to have someone else help you, unless you're a financial expert, organize all those financial statements so that it can be easily presented and interpreted by the people who end up consulting with you.
Mhm.
And then you want to develop a plan, and there's a lot of value in having an expert guide you through this process. I think that, you may have vision, you may even understand your core competencies, and you may understand your goals and all of the important things, but sometimes aligning them takes a third party perspective, especially in an alignment that really goes beyond the bookend of our passing. You can then, extend that plan out, the strategic plan, to the succession plan or contingency plans. Sometimes we like to plan for the inevitable, but there's also the unforeseen circumstances where, I recently lost a family member to a surprise incident. And so we want to
Mhm.
have those contingency plans in place too, because we care about all the people that we are on a team with, and we want them to have continuity and a secure workplace. We kind of owe it to them. We owe it to our families who
Absolutely.
we're feeding with the income. And then make sure all your legal records are in order. You want to present title to assets. You want to make sure you have all of your entities and their certificates of formation and bylaws and uh, operating agreements and everything. I mean, it's a long list. It's really, I shouldn't even bother. All of your legal records, you want to get them in order so that you can see that they all align in terms of control.
Mhm.
People can do one thing in the will and then have a restriction in their operating agreement, for example, that would cause conflict. You just want to
Mhm.
line all that stuff up and make sure that it all agrees. And then sometimes there may be other products, like life insurance or key man insurance, um, that you're going to want to think about. And it's going to really depend on those legal records as to how you align those policies. Is it an employer policy? Is it a personal policy? And you're going to want to talk to a tax advisor about the maximization of tax treatment on those sources of income.
Mhm.
Securing your leadership team, Holly, as you know, you're a leader, and without you, we wouldn't be able to do this.
Mhm.
Same thing with all businesses, right? You have to identify your leadership and talk to them, come up with a
Mhm.
plan, get everyone to buy in. And sometimes you need to give them inside knowledge on, here's the safe, here's the combination in case I don't show up tomorrow.
Mhm.
It's nice to have a formal board of directors. If you're at that level, you want to have an advisory council that will be put in place in the event of a transition. And really, all of this is about minimizing your business's reliance on you. And I think that's the difficult part for any business owner, because they're used to making things happen, they're used to owning it. Um, it's hard to imagine them not being there. And I think a better way to think about it is, how do I open the door now while I'm alive to these key people, sharing opportunities, demonstrating loyalty and really building towards longevity. How
Mm-hmm.
do I open these doors while I'm alive instead of thinking about, oh my gosh, when I'm gone, because it ends up shutting people down a lot in the planning process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. Great points. So then while I'm going through this process, are there any factors that I should be considering?
Yeah, definitely. Again, just the strategic plan, your financial resources, of course, what you can afford in terms of experts and everything is going to be a part of this. The leadership, like I just talked about, the people on your
Mm-hmm.
team, and then alignment of the incentives. That's really the whole purpose of this.
Awesome. All right. So then can you provide an overview of the typical steps involved in a business transition process?
Yes. So really, I like to start with the destination in mind. I like to have sort of a visualization of where we're going to be. Think
Mm-hmm.
about, understand, identify. So, you want to capture all of those things that you envision, write them down, establish them as your goals, and then
Mm-hmm.
prioritize those goals.
Okay.
That's kind of what's difficult sometimes because we're so used to focusing on profit in the day to day that we don't recognize we have other goals like taking care of our family, taking care of our team.
Mm-hmm.
And so, some of these movements are going to prioritize those goals, and that's really step one. And then,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, thinking about exiting your business, like not only does it have to be a transition as in I'm passing or there's been an accident, but really if someone walks up with $1 million or 10 million or 100 million, whatever your business is worth, and they offer you that sale price, why would you want to be flat-footed? Why would you not want to be able to say yes, full body
Mm-hmm.
yes, I can sell this right now? Or even transfer to employees. You have someone key like yourself, Holly, and you find out that all of this work that you've been putting into the business, making the business great, someday could be yours. Wouldn't that be great?
Mm-hmm.
Having that conversation is a part of exiting the business, right? Identifying even a key employee as your potential buyer. And then really family members, I hesitate to even say this because I think it really is a professional orientation. I can't pass my business on to my family. Many people are so skilled and specialized that it's tough to consider passing on to the family. But if it is a potential family business, working with that family, putting them in place, watching them fail, helping them back up
Mm-hmm.
again, just practice opening the door for people on your team.
Mm-hmm.
That's step two. And then you want to maximize business valuation. That's step three. And probably uh nothing more important in the day to day than just constantly revisiting or annually revisiting how to maximize your business valuation. And then really, we might be kidding ourselves a little bit, but controlling exiting timing. When do you plan to retire? Is really what I'm talking about. It's a broad conversation that everyone should have with their financial advisor, and their CPA and their attorney. And so when you're controlling the exit of the timing, is it with a third party buyer? Are you going to set some sort of window?
Yeah.
Regular valuations. Maybe you want to look at your past 2 years and constantly revalue your company in writing. And then as you go through that process, you're going to get better and better. Eventually, hopefully, you hire a CPA, you can get professional appraisal of your business. And then you have that value, even,
Mm-hmm.
even though there may not be an easy market, sometimes it's hard to market businesses. You can only have a buyer who knows what you're doing. If they don't understand your business, they're probably not going to buy it. So valuing your business at any point in time allows you to move quickly, allows you to sell quickly, allows you to get loans quickly, allows you to then even write a prenup if that's what it's about in terms of the planning, because sometimes spouses aren't the best managers of our business.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to say that this is not their asset or liability. You can use a prenup as a shield or a sword, but um, all of those controls of exit timing, death, divorce, uh, disability, and dissolution of of the um, the marriage are really some of the instances that you want to have set up. You don't want them to happen, but you want to have those contingencies planned. They should be in your operating agreement. They should be in your shareholders agreements.
Hmm.
And then reducing post-sale litigation risk, making sure that you have officers liability insurance so that whatever they've been doing on behalf of the business, they're indemnified. Everybody's sure that they're covered in terms of legal fees and liability risks. And just thinking about how all of your different assets and streams of revenue interplay. Do you have different territories? Do you have different kinds of assets? Um, and are there any claims that need to be resolved? Real property is the easiest example. If
Hmm.
your neighbor builds their cabin on your property, you got a problem. You got to kick them off, right?
Yeah.
Those things, when you're standing in your shoes and you're seeing those problems, dealing with them head on instead of leaving them for someone else to pick up on
Hmm.
is really a thoughtful, appreciated thing. I appreciated everything my dad did for me and helping me understand his passing. And so um, that's something that you want to do too. Look around,
Hmm.
look under the rug where you've been sweeping all the dust, clean it out. And then creating opportunities for key management. This is really a positive thing. This whole transition planning, it sounds a lot of macabre, doomsday, something bad's going to happen. No, this is entirely positive. You're creating a way for the new day, for the new person on your team that's going to lead everybody. You're opening the door. So
Hmm.
they're excited. There's purpose. And at that same time, you can build even more momentum by giving them incentive. You can tell them, hey, here's an employee stock option plan or what have you. I mean, you can line these things up to create employee incentives, which is even more stable for your business. You don't want to lose the key person, and all the people who do the work at the same time. That would be a complete failure for the business.
Hmm.
And then keeping the business in the family. This is really more complicated than we can deal with right now, but um, it's a very tough time for any family member when someone important to them and their family is passing, and it may not be ideal for them to jump into a new business and climb a steep learning curve at the same time.
Hmm.
Other than that, there are a lot of tax incentives for and strategies for maximizing tax treatment when you're passing assets from one family member to another family member through an
Okay.
estate. And so when you're contemplating keeping the business in the family, there are a lot of tremendous tax advantages that can be obtained through various strategies that we'll generally call legacy planning, but that might involve holding companies and limited liability partnerships or family limited liability partnerships, um, or gifting. I mean, it's a long list of potential strategies for keeping the business in the family. And then developing an effective retirement plan. Again, talk to your attorneys about the transition planning, but also talk to your financial advisor about what lifestyle you want. This isn't all about death. There's also retirement. This should be the renaissance of everybody's lives, right? This is when you get to
Hmm.
do what you've always dreamed on doing. Okay, well, do you have the revenue or the income to sustain that lifestyle, right?
Hmm.
Very important part of transition planning.
Definitely.
And avoiding family conflict. I wish I had a perfect solution for this. I do have some solutions, trigger clauses and tiebreaker mechanisms and just sort of buyout options if someone decides that they can no longer partner with someone. Sometimes family businesses are ripe with conflict, and um, you know there's also consideration to be given of not
Hmm.
allowing the children to be managing but still to benefit financially. So remember, control doesn't always need to pass with the economic benefit. The economic benefit can be separated from voting or management quite easily without risk of too much loss, other than perhaps ego, to the children. And then fulfilling philanthropic goals. This is really exciting. I'm not going to make any pitches right now for my favorites. But in terms of timing for alignment of assets and goals, this is the time. This is the best time for you to think about what it is you want to leave this world with, and then align those goals, those priorities with your assets through a transition plan.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
So what are the different types of business transitions? And if they have any unique considerations, what would those be?
Yeah, thanks. There's a whole long list. I'm gonna start with the four Ds. Debt, bankruptcy can be a transition, death, dissolution of a marriage, or disability if we have some disabling event, or ownership transfer.
Mhm.
You can have partners in a business, one succeeds the other. You can have also buyouts. You can have leadership succession, from one employee to another. You can have mergers and acquisitions.
Mhm.
You can have gifts. You can have buyouts with some, funded with insurance policies like Keyman insurance or life insurance. Um, so each of those has unique considerations, and there's even more to the list than that. But that's a pretty good starter of what types of business transitions there are.
Great. Thank you. So
Hmm.
then how does business transition planning differ for family-owned businesses compared to other types of businesses? You
Yeah,
discussed the family a little bit, so how does that differ?
yeah. It really has to do with personality. I guess management isn't really the isn't I mean
Mhm.
communication, connection. But kind of working through honestly people's strengths and weaknesses, and not being
Mhm.
blind to risks and negative feedback. I think positive feedback loops is in short probably the big risk with family businesses, and that people don't want to hear bad about their children.
Mhm.
And so when they're considering their children for succession, sometimes weaknesses may be overlooked,
Yeah.
or assumptions may be made. A lot of parents are thinking, "Oh, you're going to love my business. You're going to love making money like me." And the answer is actually, "No, I don't want to do
Mhm.
that, daddy or mommy." So yeah. Anyway,
All right,
there's
yes.
yeah, there's a lot there. And then there's also spouses, sometimes the family business ends up in divorce, and that's also
Mhm.
another big difficult timing for transition of a family-owned business, that can be planned
Absolutely.
for. Yeah, that can be
Mm,
planned for too, and minimized in terms of negative impacts by planning.
yeah, so it sounds like it definitely gets a little bit more difficult on the family side. There's a lot of emotions, feelings, and
That's right.
such. Yeah. So then what are some common challenges and risks associated with business transitions, and how can they be mitigated?
Oh yeah. Persuading leadership is easily the hardest part, that persuading someone that they need to see the company without them.
Mm,
We have a very intimate relationship with the businesses that we form,
yeah.
as founder and as leader and as usually hard worker, that it's almost impossible for that person to envision the business without them. Then really, once you've made it past that hurdle, identifying key talent. Like, I don't know that everybody is replaceable.
Mhm.
Some people are so good that they're the greatest of all time or whatever. And identifying key talent to replace key leadership, is or current leadership, is difficult. um Identifying replacement income for the owners and partners, so that when they step out and they've been relying on this income, how is their lifestyle going to be sustained? While you're paying for the replacement, you're going to end up having to pay the founder who's retired and a manager equivalent salaries, and double your costs. Well, might want to plan on that. Maintaining confidence and continuity through the transition, both through, you want your clients to know, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to be the same we were before. And all of your employees, you don't want everybody leaving because of a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, just helping them understand that there is a plan and that
Mhm.
everything is secure. And then funding, really, of the acquisition. A lot of these family transitions, would benefit from having some key man insurance or life insurance to afford the buyout price, so that they can step out of the business and let the remaining shareholders continue to function, through things like irrevocable life insurance trusts, or other mechanisms. just to make that financial transition easier and not rely on the market purchasing the business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. So you touched on it a little bit with discussing maintaining confidence, for example, for the employees that are going through that transition. So how does this business transition planning really impact the employees, the customers, or other stakeholders?
It's a great question. I think, consult with them, uh, tell them as much of the plan as you feel you can. Ask
Mm-hmm.
ask for their input. I mean, perhaps they have another perspective on how the transition is going to work and what negative impacts they may be aware of, so you can plan for them. So always gather information from everybody on your team. And then, hopefully there's a coach. Hopefully there's someone who, you know, there's a plan. They understand the plan, but then there's the coach who can just kind of keep everybody moving in the right direction and not get bogged down in the details or paralyzed by fright of, oh no, what am I going to do without Holly, right?
Going into the next question, I wanted to ask you, what are some resources or professional expertise that are typically required to develop and execute a successful business transition plan?
Yeah, I think you want to look inward on a lot of this. You need to get your goals. You need to get your priorities. So, and sometimes that's a difficult process if you don't have someone helping you, like a coach, or an attorney. And so that then once you've identified those goals, then you're investing in those goals with your transition plan. So that's one of your biggest assets is your goals, your priorities, your values. And then literally the next step is identify your assets and catalog those assets, so that you can, it might be easier for you to organize them. Here's my real property, here's my business, here's my financial assets, etc. But you want to catalog a full list, and then you want to kind of challenge your thinking, because I see a lot of people who might leave things off their list, like oil and mineral rights. It's sometimes hard for people to remember that they've inherited those, or books. If someone's published a book, they had these intellectual property rights that they're not thinking about, oh, I should transfer that here and do this. um, so the intangibles, crypto, if you have crypto, you really need to think about how that's transitioning.
Mhm.
And then, and that goes on the catalog. You're basically indexing all of your assets. It's like a treasure map. And then next is just get a cost assessment of, okay, if these are my priorities and these are my assets, and I want to align my assets with those priorities, what's it going to cost? One example would be the life insurance policy that I've talked about. Shop
Mhm.
around for the premium, figure out what that's going to cost. What's a lawyer going to cost? What's the CPA going to cost? What's the financial advisor going to cost? And then, you know, have the meeting. You don't have to have spend a lot of time. Have a half-hour meeting with each of those professionals. Get their feedback, get their
Mhm.
direction, and then sit down, evaluate whatever strategies they've given you with your assets, and then hopefully they've given you follow-up emails saying, here are your next steps. This is what you want to do, and you just start executing. Don't get bogged down in analysis paralysis. Just
Mhm.
plan for that day and get there.
Awesome. Those are all great. Thank you so much. Usually this is when we will open it up to other questions if anyone has any. Otherwise, Dubs, if there are any other final thoughts or recommendations or advice that you have for anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give a couple, just sort of, I can't really talk about cases or clients, but I can talk personally,
Yeah.
that, yeah, I come from a family of small business owners,
Mm-hmm.
and they have started their businesses all by themselves with little or no money and little or no help, and they work, 60 hours a week, and have built this amazing asset, this amazing source of revenue, and work through, what could be retirement age.
Yeah.
My mom's in particular, the one I'm thinking about, and
Mm-hmm.
having this conversation about her replacement is super challenging. It just is not something easily contemplated. It feels really academic, and offensive to come to someone and say, hey, you're going to be gone, let's get you out of here, is a very challenging conversation topic. for business owners to hear. So, I've had this experience. I've done a lot of
Mhm.
business setups, uh, you know, many, many, many. I can't even imagine the number. And then estate plans, done, a whole bunch of estate plans. Used to work for a firm that did estate planning for 100 years. And you would see most of the estate plans pretty easy, in and out. But as soon as you have that small business, there's a huge gap in the plan for what's going to happen to the business. And the standard advice in the middle of an estate plan is, oh, you have a business, let me see the operating agreement and the bylaws to make sure that the entity will allow your gifting strategy, or I'm leaving my business by will strategy, or trust, what have you. Can a trustee manage the entity?
Mhm.
So usually we just align that and just kind of, walk away. Hey, here's your estate plan, looks good. But really the question should be, how effective is that person going to be at stepping into the business? Is the business going to be
Mhm.
sustained? And so many people
Yeah.
want to leave a mark on this world and have done something, left the world a better place than when they found it.
Mhm.
And that's totally possible. You've done it with your business, but um, even though you've done it with your business, when you're gone, your business might be gone too. Versus you've done it with your business, let your business continue without you. I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's hard to get people to recognize. And so, yeah, it just can be a super big challenge to just get people to even have the
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah, I
Um,
I
yeah,
completely understand that. I can see that being an issue that you come across a lot.
yeah, yeah. And then I've had some success, hypothetically, I guess, with taking people who were already doing very well, were already on their way, but going through this process and talking about legacy planning and
Mhm.
uh, how the catalog of assets really can align. You have this kind of intellectual property can be treated this way, held this way, and then you define that entity, and then you also find the person who can manage those assets, and then you have, say, a franchise, and this franchise has these rules and all these procedures that take someone kind of special to know what's going on. And so here's that entity holding those franchises and those businesses, and here's the
Mhm.
person managing that asset. And then, here's my roadmap to all of my, financial accounts. Here's my roadmap to all of my real estate. Here's how the real estate is held. Um, and it ends up just ballooning their growth because they've then thought about the 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 security and the predictability of all of these businesses that they've set up as holding companies. And then the strategy allows for one main entity, whether it's a holding company or a trust, to make decisions or control all of those sub organizations.
Mhm.
I've seen empires grow. It's just really um, exciting.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Ashley says, I have had a few people ask about setting up a business trust, but I have found limited information in my research. Is this something you discuss with clients?
Yes, we discuss trust. I'm not sure what you mean by a business trust, but there are many different types of trusts that we can put together for businesses. The Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust was an example of a business trust that I've set up where you can have the business take out a life insurance policy on like the owner, and so that when that owner passes, the life insurance policy buys that owner's interest in the business from the other partner, so that the partner's made whole, they're able to operate the business on their own, and the family immediately experiences the equity, or the dollar value of the business, and it gets good tax treatment. So
Mhm.
I'm not a tax advisor, talk to your CPA. But we have attorneys in every state at Dunlap Bennett and Ludwig in almost every state that can help you with that.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your question, Ashley. Thank you, Doves. Do you have any other final thoughts? Anything else you want to share?
Just that this is great. I'm really excited to be getting this information out. I think with the silver tsunami, that everybody's talking about. I think, this is the perfect time to be having these conversations and to be opening the door for tomorrow's generation.
Definitely. I completely agree with that. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Dubs, for joining me and answering these questions. I feel like I've definitely learned a lot. You have a lot of great information and expertise in this area. Thank you, everyone, so much, and have a great rest of your day.